I know a mother, one of many, whose two children were completely out of control, whining, tantrums, disobedient, teasing, fighting, screaming, more whining. Not so very unusual, really, when compared to most families, perhaps yours. Then Mom studied the parenting training, and she began loving and teaching her kids. She was a diligent teacher, and she discovered, as all good parents do, that sometimes the kids responded much better to teaching if she used consequences, which are very effective in communicating to children that there is a cost or a price or a consequence involved with making every decision, good decisions, bad decisions. The overall principle is simple. If a child discovers that making bad decisions is unpleasant, while making good decisions is rewarding, that child tends to make good decisions. We actually train dogs this way. The parenting training describes a variety of useful consequences, but we'll talk about just one that was used by Mom. When her 5-year-old Jan acted out, whining, arguing, whatever, Mom would send him to his room and require that he sit on the bed doing nothing until Mom came to talk to him. She just sent him calmly, go to your bed. There was no yelling or screaming. Jan hated sitting on his bed doing nothing, of course, so sometimes after sitting on his bed for a couple of minutes, he would run out of his room before Mom came to see him, against the instructions she'd given. Mom asked me what she should do about that. I send him to his room and he runs out of his room anyway. And I made some suggestions. So the next time Jan left his room before getting permission, she put him back in his room and locked the door from the outside so that he couldn't run out of his room. When Jan discovered that the door was locked, he pounded on the door and screamed like he was being tortured. Kids know beautifully how to manipulate us. He wasn't dying. He wasn't in pain. He just wanted out. Mom stood on the other side of the door, right there, this far from him, and gently said, "You like the door being locked?" He shrieked, "No!" Still speaking through the door, Mom said, calm as a breeze, "I'll unlock the door, but only if you are sitting on your bed, like I told you. If you get off the bed, I will lock it again for a longer time. You choose." In only a moment, Mom heard Jan shout, "I'm on the bed." She said, "I'm unlocking the door," she said. "I'll be back to see you in a minute." When she returned, she talked with Jan about the whining that had led in the first place to his being sent to his room. She said, "Are you ready to come out of your room now?" He said, "Yes." Only occasionally did Mom have to use this consequence with Jan. He got the point. We get the point that when something is pleasant, we tend to do that more. If the consequences of something are unpleasant, we don't do it. We don't hit ourselves. We don't hit our thumb with a hammer very many times in a row because it hurts. One day in school, a child in Jan's class misbehaved, and Jan said, "If you do that, they might lock you in your room." I wish I'd been there to see that. Jan's teacher heard the comment and somehow concluded that Jan had been imprisoned in his room for hours on end and treated like an animal. She concluded all that from that one sentence. She called the State Department of Child Protective Services, CPS, who came to the school and required a meeting with Jan's mother. Mom was aggressively interrogated as though she were a criminal about her parenting, and she explained why she used consequences in teaching her son. You know, she was trying to prevent him from being unhappy for a lifetime by locking him in his room for 30 seconds. Mom was also a public school teacher herself, so she further explained that it was precisely because other parents did not use consequences like that she had to deal with out-of-control children in her classes. She routinely has kids in her class who have no behavior standards whatever. these kids are really going to have trouble as adults. She was trying to prevent that in her child because she loves him. Despite Mom's sensible explanations and her statement that she locked Jan's door for only 1 or 2 minutes, all while standing outside the door loving and teaching Jan, CPS notified Mom that they would be coming to her home to investigate charges of child abuse. Investigators subsequently found no evidence of abuse, but they were really looking because it justifies their job. Their job is what? To love the child? No. Their job is to find and punish child abuse. So that's what they tend to find. So they came to the home, found no evidence. Instead, they said that Jan seemed to be a really happy and well-behaved child, which surprised them. But CPS threatened to put this child in foster care. Listen, this happy child, they were going to put him in child care if she ever locked him in his room again. She's an exceptional mother, and they were going to take her child because she wasn't raising him according to their standards written in a book. It's especially ironic that while Jan's teacher greatly overreacted to his mother's parenting, in that teacher's class, the teacher who reported the child abuse, in her class, the kids routinely refused to cooperate with her efforts to teach. They regularly misbehaved in ways well beyond the ability of the teacher to control. The class was just mayhem. They regularly fought with each other, including vulgar language and hitting and throwing things. They were so entitled that sometimes they actually said to her, "I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to do what you say." This teacher, who had zero influence over her kids, reported happy Jan's mother to CPS. Another irony. CPS threatened to take Jan out of his home even though he did very well academically in school. He behaved well at home and school, even according to the teacher. He was obviously cheerful and cooperative. He was happy. He had many friends at school and elsewhere. In other words, Jan demonstrated all of the signs of emotional health. All of them. Even CPS could see that. But teachers, administrators, and other experts wanted to take over the care of this child, all in the name of protecting a victim, which has become all but a religion in recent years. Protect the victim, protect this group, protect these people, protect these children, as opposed to maybe we should prepare them for life. Social institutions and governments have increasingly been pushing to replace parents for decades. In some states, laws exist, or at least they're being debated, but they actually exist in some states, that allow children to receive instruction in, for example, human sexuality without talking to the parents. Children can be told that they can change their own gender with no regard to the chromosomes with which they were born, or their obvious inexperience in life, or the wishes of their parents. Children can be told that if they are white, they are racist and should be ashamed for crimes they know nothing about. They don't even know what these people are talking about. State medical institutions are affirming transgender care to a child without parental permission. They're assisting a child to change his gender. States are prosecuting parents who refuse to cooperate with the transgender affirming care offered to their minor children as young as age 4 by the state. There is no greater treasure on the planet than our children. We can't allow them to be raised by the friends, strangers, predators, salesmen, corporations, video games, amateur and professional porn stars, and whatever else they encounter on their phones. That's one we can't allow them to be raised by. We can't allow them to be raised by faceless, uncaring, and shifting social policies, or by those who enforce those utterly ineffective and even harmful principles. None of these state policies are raising happy children. They protect an occasional child who's being beaten, but they're hurting the rest. And we can't allow children to just raise themselves. So the state steps in, and they step in only because we parents aren't there. We have to learn to love them unconditionally. Our children. It seems kind of like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Our children, so it's, our responsibility, but apparently it's not a no-brainer to most people. Love them unconditionally and teach them how to feel loved and how to be loving and responsible. Only we can do that. And we can learn. We don't have to figure it out. It's all written and talked about and in a video. Go to realloveparents.com and you can learn how.